There are very few shortcuts to growing your business, but one of them is to acquire another MSP. In a single transaction, you can double your revenue and down the line dramatically increase your profits as well. But of course, doing this kind of acquisition is not easy. Never mind the hassles of integrating two businesses, most MSPs fail at the very first hurdle, which is how to know which MSPs could be for sale and how to start a conversation about that. My guest today has bought and sold so many businesses, he's going to make it really easy for you. Hey, I'm Paul Green, and don't forget, for all the content, tools and training to market and grow your MSP, check out MSPMarketingEdge.com. Today's guest will tell you how to find another MSP for sale and start a conversation about acquiring them.
Hi, I'm Jonathan J from dealmakers.co.uk.
And thanks so much for coming back onto the podcast, Jonathan. I think it's getting on for 3, maybe 4 years since you were last on. And I know that you've been very busy. You've been teaching thousands of business owners around the world, including many MSPs, how to find and buy a competitor or another MSP and add it into their own business. And we're going to talk about exactly that on this interview. Now, before we jump into that, and I know everyone who's thinking of buying an MSP always has the same questions which you're going to answer for us. First of all, tell us a little bit about you. So what's your background and how did you get into buying and selling businesses?
Sure. So 2024 is actually my deal-iversary. So 25 years ago, I first sold a business. It was a publishing business. Someone approached me. I made more money the day I sold it than I had in the previous 2.5 years of turning up to the office 6 days a week. So my eyes were open to what was possible. But it takes me a while to learn a lesson. So I actually started another business from scratch, which we all know is a lot of hard work. But then I bought out my major competitor, put the two businesses together, and then sold that to private equity in 2007. And that was a life-changing deal. And even now, 18 years later, that deal is paying for my holidays, it's paying for my lifestyle. So I always say to people, one deal can change your life. And over the last 25 years, I've bought and sold more than 75 different businesses. And I've learned a lot along the way, and I've made all the mistakes so that you don't have to.
So it's amazing to hear a story like that where you're still living off that one deal from 18 years ago. But is that what every MSP owner can expect when they start to do mergers and acquisitions? Or do most people start off with something a bit simpler, like just buying a competitor?
Well, I tell you the mistake that most people make is they buy another business, but they buy a business that's way too small. So they buy someone who's smaller than they are because it's inside their comfort zone, instead of buying a business that's actually bigger than theirs. Now, when you buy a business that's bigger, it's actually easier to do the deal. It's easier interestingly, to negotiate a deal with a larger business. It's easier to finance the acquisition, and they typically have more professionalized accounts and financial functions. So it's actually easier to understand the business that you're buying. So number one mistake that people make is buying too small, getting frustrated, and therefore not doing it again.
But what are the common objections that you hear from people when you suggest that? As a few off the top of my head, I can imagine people saying, but Jonathan, I'll never be able to afford a bigger business. But Jonathan, they've got a management team and we haven't. But Jonathan, that's just ridiculous. I'm guessing you hear these and more.
Yeah, so let me tell you the mindset shift that needs to take place. So the mistake that people make is they start thinking, how can I afford this business? I want to buy it, but how can I afford it? And they start thinking about their savings and their pensions, and they start thinking about friends and family who could lend them money. They don't really want to go to the bank because the bank turned them down for a £10,000 overdraft. So they don't think the bank's going to be much help. So then give up because they're actually asking themselves the wrong question. You see, when you ask yourself the question, how can I afford it? You go down a certain thought pattern of how much cash have I got at the bank and how much money can I borrow? The question you should be asking yourself is, how can I fund it? So if I was to buy this business, how can I fund it? Now, what we want to do, we want to fund the acquisition of this business without putting in any of our personal money. And that's a very, very important rule that I live by. You never put in your personal money. Now, if you take yourself out of the equation and you start saying to yourself, how can I fund this? You take the knowledge that you've acquired about funding businesses, and all of this is learnable. You take all the information you learn about funding businesses and you create what we call a deal jigsaw, where we take all these different elements of funding, we fit them together, and we create the ability to buy that business without putting in any of our own cash.
And do you see, if we take MSPs as a specific example, because I know you work with all sectors everywhere across the world, do you see that actually someone buying another business like theirs, whether it's a bigger one or a smaller one, are they more likely to succeed with that because they already understand the business and therefore they know where the costs can be cut and, where corners can be cut and where corners can't be cut?
Yeah, 100%. The mistake that I see people make is they buy a business that they don't understand. And then when they've got it, they don't know what to do with it. They don't know what's good about it, what's bad about it. And it's a really easy trap to fall into. But if you're buying a business that's similar to yours in a different location, maybe even in a different country, you understand what you're buying. You know what to look for. You can look at their accounts and you can understand whether you think they're spending too much money on staff, their overheads are too high, they're spending too much on their office. And as a result, you can see savings, but you can also see synergies. You can say, well, if we buy that business that's in the next town, do we need their office as well? Do we need all of their staff? Could we merge the two together? And those cost savings just drop straight to the bottom line to create more profit and more money in your pocket.
Yes, and I guess theoretically you could use the profits the increased profits from that to help to fund the deal. So it's almost like you're taking the profits that you're going to realise down the line and you're using those to pay off the owner down the line. Is that the kind of thing that you'd put together in your deal jigsaw?
I don't believe that you should ever agree a fixed price for a business. And the reason I say that, and it's very different to what you will hear from anyone else, is because businesses go through ups and downs. They go through cycles of high performing, moderately performing, and having a tough time, and then back having an amazing time. So I think that you should always agree a price for a business that is related to the results. There is a connection between the two. And that means that if the business performs, the seller gets more. But if they've sold you something that's about to fall off a cliff and isn't going to perform, and they kind of know that, they just can't wait to offload it onto you, then they get less because the business isn't performing. And what that does, it completely de-risks the acquisition. And I'm all about de-risking the acquisition so that you're not left with a problem.
Yeah, I love this. And actually, I've been watching your YouTube channel and you have some fascinating videos on there where you're talking to people that you've taught how to go and acquire a business. And a lot of the things you've just said there, it's great to hear your clients, your students, I guess. It's hard to call someone who's in their 40s or 50s a student, when they're running a successful business, but to hear them saying that they've done exactly that, which is really cool. Okay, one final question for you, and it's kind of a get started question. So let's assume we've got an MSPs watching this on YouTube or listening to this on the podcast thinking, oh yes, this is it, I want to do this. Where do they start? Because I know that's the question that I most commonly get about M&A is where do I find other MSPs for sale?
So the simplest thing to do is to go to the people already in your contacts, people that you already know, and you don't ask them if they would like to sell to you, or you don't say, I want to buy your business, because that's just sending completely the wrong message. This is what you say, and you say this word for word. You say, if you were ever thinking about selling your business, would you let me know? Okay. An alternative to that is to say, do you know anyone who's selling their MSP? And in both cases, what we're doing in a very soft way that we're saying we're interested, but we're allowing them to contact us, maybe not immediately, maybe a few days later. They might say, look, you asked me that the other day and I've been thinking about it. I think I might be interested. It's a very, very gentle, polite and professional way of starting the conversation without the bluntness of, do you want to sell your business? Which I think probably won't get you the response that you're looking for.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Thank you, Jonathan. So tell us more about what Dealmakers does and how can you help MSPs to acquire another MSP and what's the best way for us to get started with you?
So we help people in over 56 countries around the world buy businesses, whether it's their first business or they've already bought some businesses, but they want to do it bigger and better. And I've got lots and lots of free resources to give away. And you can find them on dealmakers.co.uk. All you have to do is download the free resources. And if you need any help at all, just send us a message.
Paul Green's MSP Marketing Edge.